Morning, everyone. Today is the 25th of June, 2024. Hope you're doing well. It's fairly early in the morning, not quite, about 7:45 in the morning. Today is a significant day for me as far as the car goes. I'm going to take the car back to Midas at 9 o'clock this morning for the second attempt at evacuating and charging the system. Now that I have my original expansion valve back in the system, I suspect the new one was not correct, and that was the problem causing the blockage. So hopefully this time around will be good. Um, Although I jumpered the anti-ice valve on the car in order to get power to the compressor so we can at least test it and get it going, I decided it's not a good idea not to replace that because I was reading up online, and the shop manual has a pretty important function that cycles the compressor on and off as it senses the temperature going down at the evaporator core. Don't want it to get too low because then you'll start having ice forming there and can cause problems. So I realized that there's a reason that that's there. Unfortunately, new ones are readily available, even locally if I wanted to, but you pay a premium for that. So I ordered one online. I should have it, I believe, maybe not tomorrow, but the next few days. I think I bought it on eBay from somebody there. So new part. So I'll look forward to replacing that. It looks fairly simple to install, so I'm not too worried about that. So in the meantime, if we do get the air conditioning working today, I'm not going to use it too much before I replace that anti-icing switch. I did receive the mysterious right angle bracket here that mounts on the block like this, and this part goes to the bracket that's where the air conditioning compressor sits on top of. So glad to have that finally. And looking at it, I guess I never had it. Like, I chastised myself thinking I had thrown it away, but I definitely did not throw away a bracket that looks like this. So I never had it. So I'm glad to have a replacement now. The threads are slightly damaged up here. I may use a tap and die set to clean those threads up. I mean, it's not that bad, but I might clean those up a little bit. I have to go to the hardware store and get a nut to fit on there. I don't have one to fit on that, so I'll do that today. Also going to buy a new set of metal ramps at Harbor Freight this morning because the ones I had I damaged one time when I drove the car over the top of them, and I don't trust them anymore, so I got rid of them. I do have these ones made out of plastic, and they seem to hold the car okay, but I just don't trust them. I'd rather have a good solid set of metal ramps. So I'm going to buy those this morning because I need to get the car up on ramps in order to install this bracket. Now, give me a good chance to check the front of the car too to see if I took care of that power steering leak. I think I did, but I just want to double check. Let's see. Oh, a couple things I'll show you more directly here on the car. I reviewed my videos from last summer when I was taking apart my old engine and stuff, and I discovered that I don't have this routed correctly after all. It turns out this bracket sits on the outside, not on the inside like I have it. Still a mystery to me why there's a gap there between this bracket and the compressor. I don't want to force the compressor to, meet that bracket. So what I'm going to do is keep a washer or something in there because I don't want to distort the compressor housing. It's soft aluminum, I think, compared to cast iron for the bracket. So the compressor is what's going to uh, deform to fit the bracket, and I don't want that to happen. So that's my plan anyway. When I put this bracket on, I will loosen everything up. So there's plenty of movement around and get the bracket in place properly, and then I'll retighten everything and redo the belt and all that stuff. And maybe that'll solve the issue there with that gap. I don't know. And that's the anti-icing switch over there. That's actually a cover. It looks kind of like a relay sitting underneath there, and it has a probe that goes inside the evaporator case between the coils to sense temperature. So that's why I need to take care of that. Other things that I'm doing, I also ordered a replacement turn signal cancellation cam for my steering column. Whenever I have the turn signal turning on a right turn, when the wheel turns the other way, it snaps it all the way to the left turn signal, and the left turn signal comes on. So obviously one of those little plastic tabs inside is broken, so I've ordered a replacement. Surprisingly, that's something else that's readily available on the market, and again, something I could have bought locally, but bought it cheaper online. So I should have that maybe tomorrow. So I should be able to put that on the car fairly soon. That's more of an annoyance, but still, who wants their turn signal to not cancel properly? Another thing that I bought recently, oh, I should have left the phone in my hand here. Another thing I bought recently from Mark II Enterprises is this chrome arm, that the rearview mirror connects to. Mine's worn out and the mirror's constantly falling down, so that's a safety issue for me. So I'm going to I bought a replacement from them. They have a reproduction that looks nice. It's chrome and all that. They had some others that were online too, but they were advertised for other Ford products. They probably would have worked, but I didn't want to take the chance that there might be something different, so I just bought the one that Mark II Enterprises had advertised. So I'll have that probably early next week. Oh, and lastly, I think this is the last thing on my list. Now there's a couple things. I'm getting my my clock, a rebuilt electric clock that I'll be able to put my dash back together. That's supposed to show up today, so I'm pretty excited about that. And the last thing I wanted to show is this thing called the accumulator. I was just reading my shop manual some more, and I didn't realize that this is really just a muffler. It quiets the system down. I have no idea how that works, and I know on other earlier models they had the muffler on the other side, and it was smaller, looked different, but it's actually a muffler. It's not a filtering device at all, so I didn't know that. So that explains why I can't get a replacement. It's impossible to get a replacement because you don't need to replace it. It's just a muffler. So that's the start of today. We'll see how things go at Midas and go from there. Here I was forgetting that I wasn't recording. So, second take. The attempt at Midas failed for the second time. They still could not charge it. They got some in there. I think they got it up to 0.8 pounds. It needs like almost 3 pounds of refrigerant. So I'm going to have my old school mechanic, who's right next door, his shop, Shamrock Automotive, he wants to take a crack at it. I'm happy to give him that crack. So I have an appointment Thursday morning at 10, I think it is, to have him take a look at it, see if he can get it working or not. There is somewhat of a charge on the system. I haven't actually tried to run it just to see if anything might happen. I kind of doubt it, but I will try that. In the meantime, I bought my steel ramps at Harbor Freight, so I feel comfortable driving the car up on those ramps and crawling underneath it to put that bracket on. I also bought the nut and the washer to go with that so I can install it. And I'm thankful, Brian, that you left the bolts in the block where the this brace attaches to, so I don't have to worry about that at least. And sure seems like there was something else I wanted to mention, but I can't remember what it is right now. So we'll see what happens next. Oh yeah, one other minor item. The horn button on my horn, the button on the right side stopped working, which was the same problem before. So when I have the steering wheel off, when I install that replacement turn signal cancellation cam, then I will work on cleaning up the contacts on that. Alright, as you can see, I'm underneath my car. Before I got started on that bracket, I wanted to see if I took care of that power steering leak. And I believe I have. Yeah, what I'm seeing under here is oil. I've always experienced oil leaks at the front of the engine on these MEL 462 engines. I've never been able to stop oil leaks coming from that front seal and all that. I'm sure there must be a trick to it, but if you've been following my videos, you know I replaced everything on the front seal, the timing case cover seal, or timing chain cover seal. I did all that, and yet we still have oil leaks. But at least the power steering is not leaking anymore, so I'm happy about that. Got my new bracket under here. I'm going to install that next. And I got my new ramps that my car is sitting on. I feel much more comfortable underneath the car with these. Alright, at this stage I have loosened everything that was holding the compressor firmly in place. The belt is loose, this bracket is loose, that bracket is loose. So now there's a fair amount of movement on there. Still not quite, I hope it's enough, but I may take these bolts out completely so there's more movement. I have a feeling I'm going to need that extra movement to get that bracket on underneath. Alright, it took a lot of time, but finally got this bracket locked in place. There are 3 bolts here that hold it to the engine block. One there, one there, and one there. Had a hard time getting the lower one going. Finally did though, but the hardest one of all was the nut right here that's underneath the air conditioning support bracket that the compressor mounts to. That was tough because there's hardly any room in there to work. it wasn't until I remembered that I had this special ratcheting box end that I was able to get in there, and I had enough room to, move it back and forth enough. I finally got it tightened down. So now I just have to go back up top and reconnect everything. I can hook the compressor back up on the bottom of the bracket here. You may not really be able to see much, but just mainly wanted to show that I finally got that bracket in place. Alright, this is turning into a much bigger project than I thought it would. So now that I have that nice bracket in place down there where it's supposed to be, when I have everything attached, when I attach the compressor to the bracket that it sits on, the support battery bracket that's attached to that L bracket I just installed, it doesn't line up properly. You can see how far off it is again. And this brings me back to what I've done in the past in these cars, and I just kind of should have considered all that before I just got through putting all this together down there, because now I'm going to have to reverse it, because now the alignment is way off again. So now I go back to an old solution from many years ago where I'm going to have to put in a series of thick washers, shims, between that bracket I just put on and the other bracket that's down there too. It's either that or I just give up for now and go back to the solution I had already, which is just not connecting the bottom of the compressor to the supporting bracket for now, because it'll work, just using this bracket there and that bar over there. It holds it well enough, and I could just save that for another day, or till I have the engine out again someday, or some other major restoration projects. So I'm deciding right now what I want to do. I think what it's going to come down to is if there's too many things holding the support bracket underneath the compressor to the engine block, then I'm not going to bother with it today. So I'm going to do a little assessing down there and see what I got. Alright, I made my assessment. I am not going to attempt to fix this the right way today. There's just too much work involved. To get the kind of access I need to the front of the engine, I'm going to have to remove the fan shroud. Then I can get to the front down there and loosen and remove the bolts, nuts holding on the power steering reservoir, which is also part of the bracket that holds on that bottom support for the air conditioning compressor. I have to get all that loose and out of the way, and then I got to take off that nut that I worked so hard to get on from this L bracket, and then I got to put shims in there once I get all that loose, and that's going to be an all-day project. So I'm just going to put this back together the way I had it. The only difference is now there's an L-shaped bracket down there that's basically not doing a whole lot. It's connected, but it's not didn't help me any for this phase of the game. So I am going to go ahead and fix this the way this is supposed to be. This goes on the outside, not the inside. Maybe put a washer or something in there, but that's all I'm going to really change. I'm just going to put this back the way I had it because it's a solution that works for now, and I'll just have to wait till I have a full day to work. I got to work all day tomorrow, Wednesday, and then my appointment is Thursday morning to have my mechanic look at it. So I'm just going to put it back the way it was basically for now. Alright, I finished putting my car back together under the hood. I actually ran the compressor. There's definitely a charge of some sort on the system because it definitely slowed the engine down when it was running. But it was making a funny sound, so I only ran it for a few seconds. So definitely something amiss there. Hopefully my regular mechanic can figure that out. In the meantime, I received my rebuilt replacement clock. I always forget the name of the company. I think it's Classic Clocks or something like that. I can't remember, but the only thing I'm disappointed about is that the face of this one is not as nice looking as the face of my old one that's not working. I seriously considered taking that apart and swapping out the faces and all that, but since this is an expensive clock and it should be working, I really don't want to take the chance I might mess something up. The other thing I noticed is that the back side on the original clock is shorter than this one is, and that's fine. I mean, that's not a big deal, I suppose. It'll still work just fine. I have no doubt about that. And this must be from a 66 because it starts with a C6 while it starts with a C7 on the part numbers, but that's all good. So I'm going to install the clock on that trim piece there and then get that back inside the car so my dash can go back together. So you can see the clock, the second hand moving there. I noticed when I had it plugged in to power that it resets or it recharges like every 30 seconds. You can hear that little snap in there as the electric arm pushes the spring. which I have no idea if that's normal, how long it was when it was new, but seems to work fine, so I'm putting it in. Oh man, I don't know if I just recorded that or I forgot to start the recording. Anyway, in case I didn't get that recorded, here's my dash back together with a functioning clock. Not quite as pretty as the original clock was. The hands are kind of worn out, so at some future point, I'll probably swap the face of this one with my original one. I just didn't feel like taking it apart now since I just spent all this money to have that one refurbished, so I'll just let it run and keep time. So I work all day tomorrow, Wednesday, so Thursday morning, my mechanic's going to take a crack at the air conditioning system, and we'll see what comes out of that. Have a good evening.